The year is 1843. In the bend of the Mississippi River, a city of brick and hope rises from the marshlands. Nauvoo, Illinois. But beneath the surface of this city beautiful, a storm is brewing. Religious tension, political rivalry, and fear are tearing at the fabric of the young American nation. Standing at the center of it all is Joseph Smith. To some, a charlatan. To others, a prophet. On a humid afternoon, he gathers his inner circle. His eyes aren't on the river, but on a future no one else can see. There will be a day, he begins, his voice dropping to a low, urgent whisper. Suddenly, Oracle Owl appears on a nearby rafters, its purple eyes glowing with the weight of centuries. It watches as Smith describes a world in chaos, where the laws of the land are treated like scrap paper. He speaks of the horse, a symbol of his people, the saints, destined to become a power in the tops of the mountains. But this isn't a prophecy of conquest. It's a prophecy of survival. Smith sees a vision of the United States Constitution, the very foundation of the Republic, stretching until it is as thin as a single thread. The Constitution will hang by a thread, he warns, and it will be the white horse who saves it. The listeners exchange worried glances. The idea of the Union collapsing seems impossible, yet Smith's conviction is infectious. Outside, the sky begins to darken with real clouds, mirroring the visionary storm Smith is describing. The Oracle Owl blinks, its feathers ruffled by a wind that isn't there. The seeds of a great migration are being planted right here, in the shadow of the Nauvoo Temple. But prophecies often come with a heavy price. As Smith's influence grows, so does the fury of his enemies. By 1844, the city beautiful has become a powder keg. Smith is arrested and taken to Carthage Jail, a small stone fortress in the Illinois wilderness. On June 27, a mob with blackened faces storms the prison. The air is filled with the smell of gunpowder and the shouts of angry men. In the chaos, the prophet falls. The white horse has lost its rider. The Oracle Owl sits on the window ledge of the jail, its eyes dimming as it witnesses the end of an era. Back in Nauvoo, the news hits like a physical blow. Grief turns into a desperate realization. They can no longer stay. If they remain, they will be destroyed. If they leave, they face 1,000 miles of nothingness. It is here that Brigham Young steps into the light. He is not a dreamer like Smith, but a builder. A man of iron will. He remembers Smith's words about the tops of the mountains. The prophecy isn't just a story anymore, it's a survival map. Thousands begin to pack. They sell their brick homes for the price of a wagon and a team of oxen. Looking back, they see the temple they spent years building, now a ghost in the snow. They are heading toward the White Horse region, the Rocky Mountains, where no one else wants to live. The great trek has begun, driven by the belief that the Constitution they love is about to fail, and they are the only ones who can hold the thread. As the pioneers struggle westward, the nation they left behind begins to fracture. Smith's prophecy spoke of a time when the United States would be rent asunder. In the 1850s, the dark clouds of the Civil War begin to gather over Washington, D.C. Arguments over slavery and states' rights become violent. The Oracle Owl appears atop the U.S. Capitol dome, watching as the thread of the Constitution begins to pull tight. To the saints, now isolated in the high deserts of Utah, the chaos in the East is a terrifying confirmation. They believe the white horse, their own people, is now the only stable force left in a dying republic. But the U.S. government sees it differently. They look at this growing theocracy in the mountains with deep suspicion. President James Buchanan, fearing a rebellion, sends a third of the U.S. Army to Utah in 1857. This was the Utah War, a silent, cold conflict where no major battles were fought, but the tension was absolute. The Oracle Owl perches on a jagged mountain peak, its eyes reflecting the campfire light of two opposing armies. Brigham Young prepares his people for a scorched earth defense. They would burn their own homes before letting the army take them. For a moment, it looks like the prophecy is coming true in the worst way possible. A total collapse of order. The thread isn't just hanging, it is being set on fire. Yet even as the nation bleeds in the Civil War, the saints maintain their own laws and their own hope. They wait for the moment the white horse must ride out to save the ruins of the Constitution. Decades pass, and the dusty trails of the pioneers turn into paved highways. But the white horse prophecy does not fade into the history books. It evolves. In the early 20th century, the written version of the prophecy finally surfaces, shared in whispers in private journals. The oracle owl perches on a library ladder in a quiet archive, its glowing eyes scanning the faded ink of a long hidden manuscript. Historians begin to debate, did Joseph Smith really say these words? Or was it a legend created by those who followed him? Some call it apocryphal, a beautiful myth born of the struggle for survival. Yet for many, the prophecy remains a living, breathing warning. Whenever the United States faces a crisis, a world war, a Great Depression, or political upheaval, the same phrase echoes. The Constitution is hanging by a thread. The oracle owl is seen reflected in the glass skyscrapers of modern Salt Lake City, a guardian of a secret that has crossed through time. In recent decades, the prophecy has even touched the highest levels of American power. Presidential candidates and senators have been asked about their belief in the white horse. Is it a literal plan to take control, or a spiritual duty to preserve the republic? The oracle owl tilts its head, watching a modern political rally through a digital screen. The tension is as high now as it was in 1843. Whether the prophecy is real or not might not be the right question. Because in history, the things people believe are true have just as much power as the things that actually happened. To understand why this prophecy took such a deep root, we must look back at the cost of the journey itself. In 1847, Brigham Young stands atop a rocky overlook, squinting against the harsh sun. Behind him are thousands of people who have lost everything but their faith in a vision. Men, women, and children trudge through waist-deep mud and searing heat, their shoes long since worn to rags. This wasn't just a move. It was an exodus into a desert that no one else wanted. The oracle owl watches from a sun-bleached buffalo skull, its purple eyes reflecting the shimmer of the heat waves. Diseases like cholera stalk the camps, and shallow graves mark every mile of the trail. Yet every night by the campfire, they talk about the white horse. They believe that every blister and every death is a price paid to reach the tops of the mountains where they will be safe. In July 1847, the first wagons finally break through the Emigration Canyon. Before them lies the Great Salt Lake Valley, a barren, salt-crusted wasteland. Most would see a graveyard. Brigham Young sees a kingdom. This is the right place, he declares, his voice echoing off the canyon walls. The oracle owl takes flight, circling the valley as the settlers begin to unload their meager belongings. Here, in total isolation, they would build the fortress of the White Horse, preparing for the day the world would come knocking. But isolation was a dream that couldn't last. The world did come knocking, and it carried a bayonet. By 1857, the U.S. government viewed Utah not as a refuge, but as a rebellion. President James Buchanan declared the Saints in a state of insurrection, sending 2,500 soldiers to install a new governor. The oracle owl sits atop a jagged pass, watching the sun glint off the brass buttons of the approaching infantry. To the Saints, this was the moment Joseph Smith had warned them about. The white horse standing against the might of the Union. Brigham Young didn't flinch. He declared martial law. "We will not be driven again," he thundered. He ordered his people to prepare to burn every house they had just built. They would leave the army nothing but a smoking desert. Guerrilla fighters, the Nauvoo Legion, began a campaign of harassment, burning supply wagons and stampeding army cattle. The oracle owl flies low over a burning supply train, the orange flames licking the dark sky. For a year, the Utah War was a war of nerves, played out in the freezing snow and high canyons. The U.S. Army was trapped in the cold, while the saints stood ready to sacrifice everything for the prophecy. It was a showdown that threatened to rip the country apart even before the first shot at Fort Sumter. The thread of the Constitution was indeed stretching, vibrating with the tension of a civil war within a civil war. But as the two sides stared each other down, a strange, uneasy peace was brokered. A temporary delay before the Great Rebellion would set the whole nation on fire. With the Civil War over and the railroad connecting the continent, Utah was no longer an island. But as the 19th century faded into the 20th, the White Horse prophecy didn't die. It went underground. It transformed from a survival map into a political identity. The oracle owl sits on the shoulder of a bronze statue of a pioneer, its purple eyes glowing as it watches the world change from steam to electricity. In the early 1900s, the prophecy began to be formally recorded and debated in the halls of Salt Lake City. Some leaders within the church officially distanced themselves from the vision, calling it unreliable or unauthorized. But for the common people, the image of the Constitution hanging by a thread remained a powerful lens to view the world. Every time the U.S. government expanded its power, during the New Deal or the World Wars, the White Horse believers took note. They saw themselves as the reserve force, the secret guardians waiting for the final collapse. The oracle owl is seen perched on the edge of a modern radio tower, the red warning lights blinking like a heartbeat. By the 1960s and 70s, the prophecy re-emerged in the public eye through political movements. It was no longer just about religion, it was about the very soul of the American Republic. Critics warned that such a belief could lead to a shadow government, while believers argued it was the ultimate form of patriotism. The thread was no longer just a religious metaphor. It had become a cornerstone of a specific American political philosophy. The oracle owl tilts its head, watching a sea of protesters in the modern day, holding signs that echo the words of 1843. So, we return to the question, is the White Horse prophecy a divine roadmap or a masterpiece of historical folklore? Perhaps it is both. It began as a whipper in a wooden hall in Illinois, a promise of safety for a people who had nowhere left to run. It became the fuel that drove wagons across frozen rivers and through the gates of hell into the Rocky Mountains. The oracle owl is seen flying back through time, passing over the pioneers, then the soldiers, and finally back to Joseph Smith in Nauvoo. We see that history isn't just about what happened, it's about what we refuse to let die. The White Horse isn't just a group of people or a political movement. Its glowing eyes have seen the rise of cities, the fall of leaders, and the persistent power of a single vision. Whether the thread is truly hanging or not doesn't matter as much as the people willing to hold it. The oracle owl lands on a weathered fence post in the Utah desert, the sun setting behind the jagged peaks. It stands as a guardian of the high places, a ghost of the frontier that refuses to be forgotten. As the light fades, the silhouette of a white horse appears for one last time on the highest ridge. The prophecy remains, waiting for the next storm, for the next thread to fray, and for the white horse to ride again.